Lou Costello was more than just a comedian. He was a true legend of entertainment, a man who brought joy to millions with his quick wit, energetic performances, and perfectly timed slapstick humor. But behind the laughter was a story of perseverance, struggle, and personal hardship. From his humble beginnings in a hard-working Italian immigrant family to his meteoric rise in Hollywood, Costello's journey was filled with triumphs and challenges. His career, alongside Bud Abbott, became one of the most iconic duos in comedy history, dominating radio, film, and television. However, fame is never permanent, and as the entertainment industry evolved, Costello faced difficulties that tested his resilience. Today we'll take a deep dive into the incredible life of Lou Costello, the man who made the world laugh but carried his own burdens behind the scenes. Childhood and family. Lou Costello, originally named Louis Francis Cristillo, was born on March 6, 1906, in Paterson, New Jersey, into a large Italian immigrant family. His parents, Stefano Cristillo and Rosabella Rose Cristillo née Castillo, had moved to the United States in search of better opportunities, bringing with them the resilience and work ethic typical of many immigrant families of the time. They settled in Paterson, a bustling industrial city that attracted many working-class immigrants. Stefano and Rose worked long hours in textile mills, barely earning enough to support their 7 children. Their days were defined by relentless labor, and their sacrifices set the foundation for Costello's strong sense of perseverance. Growing up as the youngest of 7 siblings meant that Costello often had to fight for attention in a crowded household. His older brothers and sisters took on responsibilities early, helping their parents with household chores and contributing financially when possible. Despite their struggles, the Cristillo home was filled with warmth, humor, and a deep sense of family loyalty. Meals were often simple but shared together, and storytelling was a major form of entertainment, something that likely influenced Costello's later passion for performance. The tight-knit nature of his family meant that Costello was surrounded by a variety of personalities. His older siblings served as both caretakers and role models, and their influence helped shape his character. While some of his brothers took on blue-collar jobs to help sustain the household, Costello found himself drawn to humor as a way to stand out. He was naturally mischievous, often making his siblings laugh with impressions, jokes, and slapstick antics. It was in these early family interactions that he unknowingly began crafting the comedic style that would later make him famous. Despite the love within his home, financial hardship was a constant struggle. The family lived in a modest, crowded house, and every dollar earned was stretched to cover basic necessities. The realities of their economic situation meant that there was no room for indulgence. Education beyond high school was a luxury, and any ambition beyond securing a stable job was often seen as unrealistic. During high school, Costello's natural comedic instincts became more apparent. He was drawn to performing and eagerly participated in school plays, showcasing his ability to entertain an audience. His humor was effortless, and his physical comedy skills, such as exaggerated expressions and clumsy mannerisms, were already developing. However, despite his clear talent, continuing his education was not an option. When he finished high school, he had to face reality. He needed to work to help support his family. Determined to contribute, Costello took on a variety of jobs, working as a waiter, a driver, and a salesman. Though these jobs were necessary for survival, they also became an unexpected form of education, allowing him to observe people from all walks of life. He learned how to engage with customers, read social cues, and adapt his humor to different situations, skills that would later prove invaluable in his comedic career. Lou Costello's career began in vaudeville. where he refined his comedic timing and physical humor, relying on exaggerated facial expressions, clumsy movements, and perfectly timed reactions to captivate audiences. Though he struggled to find consistent work in the early years, he took on any performance opportunity he could, traveling between small theaters and working in burlesque shows. These experiences, while financially unstable, were invaluable in shaping his stage presence, comedic timing, and improvisational skills. His ability to engage audiences through body language and slapstick humor made him stand out, setting the stage for his later success. Lou Costello's career took a defining turn in the late 1930s when he partnered with Bud Abbott, a seasoned performer known for his experience in vaudeville and burlesque comedy. Their collaboration, which would become one of the most legendary in comedy history, happened almost by chance. Costello's usual stage partner was absent for a performance, and Abbott, who had already built a reputation as a skilled straight man, was asked to step in at the last minute. From the moment they took the stage together, it was clear that they had an extraordinary comedic chemistry, a perfect balance between Abbott's serious, logical delivery and Costello's energetic, bumbling persona. Abbott naturally took on the role of the straight man, the calm and rational character who set up the jokes, while Costello played the exaggerated comic, reacting with confusion, frustration, and childlike innocence. This contrast became the foundation of their signature style. Costello's ability to misinterpret even the simplest statements created endless comedic possibilities, while Abbott's deadpan delivery and rapid corrections added to the hilarity. What made their act even more effective was their ability to seamlessly execute fast-paced verbal exchanges, perfectly timed misunderstandings, and physical comedy, making them a dynamic and versatile duo. During this period, vaudeville and burlesque were still major sources of entertainment, particularly for working-class audiences looking for light-hearted, escapist humor. Abbott and Costello quickly gained recognition within these circuits, honing their act in nightclubs and small theaters, where their routines evolved through trial and error in front of live audiences. Unlike some comedians who relied on elaborate setups, Abbott and Costello thrived on improvisation, adjusting their timing and delivery based on audience reactions. This adaptability became one of their greatest strengths, allowing them to transition smoothly from stage performances to radio and later film and television. One of the reasons their act resonated so strongly was that Costello's character was universally relatable. His comedic persona, a lovable underdog who struggled to understand the simplest things, allowed audiences to identify with him, making them feel like they were in on the joke. Whether he was confused, exasperated, or throwing a tantrum over his own mistakes, Costello's exaggerated reactions made even the most basic exchanges feel like comedic masterpieces. Meanwhile, Abbott's role was equally crucial. His sharp timing and unwavering seriousness served as the perfect foil, ensuring that Costello's antics never became too chaotic. Without Abbott's presence, Costello's wild energy might have seemed directionless, but together they created a balance that kept their routine structured yet spontaneous. As the late 1930s progressed, Abbott and Costello's reputation grew beyond the vaudeville and burlesque circuits. They began performing at higher-profile venues, drawing larger crowds and attracting the attention of radio executives who saw the potential for their fast-paced comedy to succeed on air. Their first major break came when they secured a recurring spot on the Kate Smith Hour, one of the most popular radio programs of the era. The transition from stage to radio was seamless, as their quick-witted, dialogue-driven comedy translated perfectly to the medium. Unlike physical comedians who relied heavily on visual gags, Abbott and Costello's humor thrived on wordplay, misunderstandings, and clever verbal exchanges, making them ideal for the radio format. After solidifying their partnership, Abbott and Costello's career gained momentum, first through live performances in nightclubs, burlesque theaters, and vaudeville circuits. Their routines, built around rapid-fire wordplay, comedic misunderstandings, and Costello's exaggerated reactions, quickly became audience favorites. The nightclub scene provided them with a crucial training ground where they could perfect their comedic timing and refine their signature act based on real-time audience reactions. Their ability to seamlessly combine verbal wit with physical humor made them stand out among other performers, earning them increasing recognition within the entertainment industry. As their popularity grew, Abbott and Costello transitioned from stage performances to radio, which at the time was the most powerful medium for mass entertainment. Their first major break came when they secured a recurring role on the Kate Smith Hour, one of the most widely listened to radio programs of the era. This was a turning point in their career, allowing them to reach a nationwide audience and introduce their comedy to millions of listeners who had never seen them perform in person. Since radio relied entirely on dialogue rather than physical gestures or visual humor, Abbott and Costello adapted by sharpening their verbal exchanges, increasing the pace of their routines, and fine-tuning their comedic rhythm. Their ability to make audiences laugh without relying on physical slapstick proved their versatility and expanded their appeal beyond traditional stage performances. During this time, they perfected some of their most famous comedy sketches, including the now legendary Who's on First routine. The clever wordplay and relentless misunderstandings of this skit became an instant classic, captivating radio listeners and solidifying their reputation as one of the most dynamic comedic duos of their time. Their work on the Kate Smith Hour made them one of the most talked about acts in America, and soon Hollywood took notice. In 1941, Abbott and Costello made their transition to film with their first starring role in Buck Privates, a military comedy released by Universal Pictures. The film, which followed two bumbling misfits who accidentally enlist in the U.S. Army, perfectly showcased the duo's signature humor, Costello's childlike antics, and Abbott's exasperated straight man reactions. Audiences loved it, and the film became a massive box office success, earning over $4 million, an enormous sum at the time. Realizing they had struck gold, Universal Pictures quickly capitalized on their popularity, releasing multiple films featuring the duo that same year. In the Navy and Hold That Ghost both premiered in 1941, further establishing Abbott and Costello as Hollywood's hottest comedic act. Each film followed a similar formula, placing the duo in absurd situations where their signature misunderstandings and slapstick humor could shine. The films were not only financially successful, but also critically praised for their ability to bring laughter to audiences during the difficult years of World War II. By the early 1940s, Abbott and Costello had firmly cemented their place as Hollywood's top comedy team. Their success on radio had given them a strong fan base, and their transition to film proved that their act was adaptable to new formats. Unlike many stage comedians who struggled to make the jump to movies, Abbott and Costello thrived, dominating the box office for much of the decade. Their ability to blend fast-paced dialogue with physical comedy set them apart from other comedic acts, and their films became a source of joy and escapism for audiences across America. The rapid rise of Abbott and Costello in this period was nothing short of remarkable. From burlesque theaters and nightclub acts to nationwide radio fame and Hollywood stardom. They had quickly ascended to the top of the entertainment world. Their combination of timeless humor, impeccable comedic timing, and a relatable dynamic made them icons, and their films became some of the most memorable comedies of the golden age of Hollywood. As they continued to dominate the entertainment industry throughout the 1940s and 1950s, Abbott and Costello expanded their reach to television with The Abbott and Costello Show in 1952. The show allowed them to bring their most famous routines to a new format, relying not only on witty dialogue, but also on visual comedy. Costello's physical humor translated seamlessly to television, and his ability to turn simple situations into chaotic, laugh-out-loud moments made the show a classic. Though it only ran until 1954, its impact was significant, introducing their routines to new generations and preserving their legacy. Despite their immense success, their popularity began to decline in the mid-1950s as entertainment trends shifted. Audiences began gravitating toward new styles of comedy, and Abbott and Costello's routines, while still beloved, started to feel outdated to some. At the same time, Costello faced personal struggles, including financial difficulties and health issues, which further impacted his ability to perform. By 1957, Abbott and Costello officially ended their partnership, marking the conclusion of one of comedy's most legendary duos. Costello attempted to continue performing on his own, even trying to launch a solo career in comedy and television, but he never reached the same level of success without Abbott. Scandals. Lou Costello's immense success did not come without its share of difficulties. Over time, tensions between him and Bud Abbott grew, particularly over financial matters and career management. Their business partnership, which had once been the foundation of their success, became a source of conflict as they clashed over earnings and contractual agreements. One of the biggest disputes centered around how their income was divided. In many comedy duos, profits were split evenly, but as the more physically demanding performer, Costello felt he deserved a larger share. Abbott, on the other hand, believed their contributions were equal and insisted on maintaining the 50-50 split. These disagreements, compounded by their inability to adapt to changing entertainment trends, placed increasing strain on their working relationship. By the mid-1950s, television had overtaken radio and film as the dominant form of entertainment, and newer comedic styles were emerging. While Abbott and Costello remained popular, their routines began to feel repetitive to audiences who were looking for something fresh. Rather than evolving their act, they continued to rely on older, well-known material, which made it difficult for them to compete with the next generation of comedians. Their popularity began to decline, and by 1957 their long-standing partnership officially came to an end. The breakup of the duo marked the beginning of a difficult period in Costello's life. Without Abbott, he struggled to maintain the same level of success. Much of their magic had come from their chemistry, and without his longtime partner, Costello found it challenging to replicate the dynamic that had made them famous. While he attempted to continue performing solo, his projects failed to gain the same traction. Beyond his career struggles, his financial troubles quickly escalated. Despite having earned millions at the height of his career, Costello had never been careful with his money. He lived extravagantly, generously lent money to friends and family, and made poor financial decisions without considering long-term stability. His lack of financial planning, combined with an absence of steady work, resulted in mounting debt. Legal and tax issues only made matters worse. Both Costello and Abbott had neglected to properly manage their taxes during their peak years, and the IRS soon came after them for unpaid back taxes. The financial penalties were severe, stripping Costello of much of his remaining wealth. On top of that, he faced multiple lawsuits and legal disputes over unpaid debts and business arrangements that had gone sour. With no steady source of income and growing financial obligations, he found himself in an increasingly dire situation. As his financial struggles deepened, so did his personal challenges. The stress of legal battles and financial ruin weighed heavily on him, and his health began to decline. His attempts to rebuild his career never reached the same heights as his days with Abbott, and the once beloved comedian found himself struggling both professionally and personally. The rapid fall from being one of the highest paid entertainers in Hollywood to facing severe financial difficulties was a stark contrast to the life he had once known. Lou Costello's marriage to Ann Battler was a defining chapter in his life, filled with love, devotion, and immense tragedy. Anne was born on March 1st, 1912, in Clackmannanshire, Scotland, and immigrated to the United States with her father at the age of 8, settling in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. From a young age, she showed a natural talent for dance, winning numerous awards in Scottish dance competitions alongside her sister Irene. Her passion led her to pursue a professional career, teaching dance to children and eventually moving to New York City to seek opportunities in the entertainment industry. By the early 1930s, Anne had earned a place in the chorus line at the Republic Theater on Broadway, where she performed as a tap dancer. It was there that she met Lou Costello, who was working as a comedian at the same venue. Their connection quickly blossomed into a romance, and on January 30th, 1934, they were married in Massachusetts. In a humorous twist fitting for Costello's comedic nature, he forgot to bring Anne's wedding ring, and they had to use her mother's ring for the ceremony instead. This small but memorable moment reflected the warmth and light-hearted spirit of their relationship. Shortly after their wedding, Anne's promising dance career came to an abrupt halt following a severe car accident. She suffered a broken neck and was forced to wear a full-body cast for several months. Though she eventually recovered, she never returned to dancing professionally. Instead, she focused on supporting her husband as his career soared, becoming the anchor of their growing family, while Costello cemented his place in Hollywood as one of the most beloved comedians of his time. The couple had 4 children: Patricia Patty Costello, born in 1936, Carol Lou Costello, born in 1938, Lou Costello Jr., affectionately nicknamed Butch, born on November 6, 1942, and Christine Costello, born on August 15, 1945-1947. Despite Costello's demanding career, family was always a priority for him, and he cherished the time he spent with his wife and children. However, their lives were forever altered by an unimaginable tragedy in November 1943, when Lou Jr. drowned in the family's swimming pool just days before his first birthday. The devastating accident occurred while Costello was at a radio broadcast for the Abbott and Costello show. Just minutes before going on air, he received the heartbreaking news. Yet he insisted on performing as scheduled, believing that the audience had paid to see a show and should not be let down. Though he carried on with the performance, his grief was evident, and those who knew him could see that the loss had deeply shaken him. It was one of the most painful moments of his life, and a testament to his dedication to his craft, even in the face of personal heartbreak. The death of Lou Jr. left a lasting scar on both Costello and Anne. While Costello tried to maintain his outwardly cheerful and comedic persona, the weight of the tragedy never truly left him. Anne, devastated by the loss of their child, struggled with immense grief and guilt for years. Their marriage, already under pressure due to the demands of Costello's career, faced even greater strain as they both coped with their sorrow in different ways. As time passed, their relationship endured additional challenges, especially as Costello's career began to decline and financial troubles mounted. Despite the hardships they endured, Lou and Ann Costello built a loving family, and their children carried on their legacy. 6. Other relationships. Costello's professional relationship with Bud Abbott defined much of his career, as their partnership became one of the most legendary comedy duos in history. Though they had their differences, their chemistry on stage and screen was undeniable, creating an enduring legacy that shaped the world of comedy. For decades, they captivated audiences with their rapid-fire exchanges, perfectly timed comedic routines, and unforgettable sketches. Their success spanned radio, film, and television, making them household names and cementing their place in entertainment history. However, despite the laughter they shared with the world, the pressures of fame, financial disputes, and the inevitable evolution of comedy placed increasing strain on their partnership. Over time, these tensions became more difficult to ignore, and in 1957, their professional relationship came to an end, bringing closure to an era that had once defined American comedy. Without Abbott by his side, Costello struggled to maintain the same level of success. His career, once filled with standing ovations and box office hits, gradually faded into the background as newer comedic acts emerged and audience preferences shifted. The world of entertainment was evolving, and despite his immense talent, Costello found it difficult to adapt to these changes. His attempts at solo projects never reached the heights of his work with Abbott, and the absence of their signature back-and-forth banter left a void in his performances. As offers became scarce and financial burdens mounted, Costello was forced to confront a reality far removed from the glamour of his peak years. Beyond his professional struggles, his personal life was marked by increasing isolation. Once adored by millions, he now found himself distanced from the spotlight and from many of the people who had once been an integral part of his life. The overwhelming grief of losing his young son years earlier had never fully faded, and as he faced ongoing financial difficulties and declining health, the weight of his past losses became even heavier. The joy he had once found in performing, in making people laugh, seemed increasingly out of reach. Though he had dedicated his life to bringing happiness to others, he struggled to find that same happiness for himself in his later years. 7. Death. On March 3, 1959, just 3 days before his 53rd birthday, Lou Costello suffered a fatal heart attack, bringing an abrupt and unexpected end to his life. His passing sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, leaving fans and colleagues devastated by the loss of a man who had dedicated his life to making others laugh. For decades, Costello had been a household name, an entertainer whose humor and charm brought joy to millions. Though his final years had been filled with personal struggles, financial hardship, and declining health, the outpouring of grief following his death was a testament to the profound impact he had made on the world of comedy. Costello's sudden death was particularly tragic, given that only a few weeks earlier he had seemed in relatively good spirits. Despite his health issues, he had continued making public appearances, showing glimpses of the vibrant and energetic comedian that audiences had loved for so many years. His final days were spent in the company of family and friends, reminiscing about the career that had defined him. Then, without warning, he suffered a heart attack at his home in Beverly Hills and was rushed to the hospital. Though doctors did what they could, his condition quickly worsened, and he passed away later that day. News of his death spread rapidly, with headlines across the country mourning the loss of one of Hollywood's most beloved comedic figures. Even though Costello's career had declined in his later years, His contributions to entertainment remained undeniable. Alongside Bud Abbott, he had helped define the golden age of comedy, shaping the genre with their flawless comedic timing, rapid-fire dialogue, and impeccable physical humor. Their routines, particularly the legendary Who's on First, were more than just comedy sketches. They became cultural landmarks, referenced and studied for generations. Their influence extended far beyond their own time, paving the way for countless comedians who followed. The dynamic between the straight man and the bumbling comic became a formula that many other duos would emulate, but few would ever achieve the same level of success. Even decades after his passing, Costello's legacy remains alive. His films and television appearances continue to be rediscovered by new audiences, and classic routines like Who's on First are still performed and celebrated today. His unique comedic style, blending innocence, frustration, and impeccable physical timing, became a blueprint for many comedians who came after him. The joy he brought to audiences never faded, and his influence can still be seen in modern comedy, from sketch shows to sitcoms. Though the man himself is gone, the laughter he created lives on, ensuring that Lou Costello's place in comedy history remains secure.